Someone told me to pick a lane, and I've been thinking about that ever since. Not because it bothered me, but because I think it's one of the most limiting things that you can say to people. Pick a lane, niche down, be consistent, be one thing so people know what to expect from you. And I genuinely think that advice is making people smaller than they actually are. Because I'm a paradox, and I think you are probably too. And I think that is actually the most interesting thing about you. We live in a world obsessed with categorization. Your Instagram has to have a theme. Your personality has to fit a type. Your interests have to make sense together in a way that is legible to other people. And somewhere along the way, we started curating ourselves down to the parts that felt the most coherent, the most digestible, the most easily explained in a dinner party, like we are an elevator pitch. And we quietly let go of the parts that do not fit the narrative. The interests that seem too nerdy, or too soft, or too random, the hobby that did not match the aesthetic, the side of yourself that would confuse people who thought they already knew you. And I think that quiet letting go is one of the saddest things we do to ourselves. Really. Because the version of you that only shows the coherent parts is not actually you. It is like a highlight reel of you, edited for public consumption. And here's the interesting thing, the research on this actually suggests that people with wide ranging interests and what psychologists call cognitive complexity tend to be more creative, more adaptable, and better at problem solving than people who are deeply specialized in one area only. Because your brain makes connections between things. And the more different things you know about, the more unusual connections you can make. The person who is into astrophysics and also obsessed with Renaissance art sees something in both that a specialist in either field would miss entirely. Your weird combination of interests is not a liability, it is literally how original thought happens. I want to be honest about my own paradoxes for a second. I am someone who thinks deeply about neuroscience and spirituality, and also sends unhinged voice notes about reality TV. I care about design and aesthetics, and I also cry at animated films. I am building something serious and ambitious in my business, and I also have an extremely extensive opinion about the correct way to make tea. And for a long time, I feel like I had to choose which version of myself was the real one. Like I had to pick the serious one or the soft one, the intellectual one or the chaotic one. And I realized that the tension between those things is not a problem to solve. It is just what it feels like to be a complete person. You are allowed to be deeply spiritual and also deeply sarcastic. You are allowed to have a skincare routine and a philosophy degree. You are allowed to be ambitious and also spend the entire Sunday doing absolutely nothing productive. These are things that do not need to cancel each other out. They make you dimensional. I think the reason we are so uncomfortable with our own contradictions is that we have been taught that consistency is the same thing as integrity. If you change your mind or contain multitudes or defy easy categorization, you are somewhat less trustworthy, less real. But I think the most interesting people I have ever met are the ones who surprise you, who think they have you, who you think you have figured out, and then they say something that completely reframes who you thought they were. The people who are one thing all the way through are easy to understand. But the people who are paradoxes, who are soft and sharp and serious and silly, ancient and completely of this moment, those are the people you want to keep talking to. Those are the people who make you think. So stop editing yourselves down to the parts that make sense. Be the version of you that has too many interests and opinions about too many things and does not fit neatly into any single category. That is not a flaw. That is the whole point of you. You are allowed to be a paradox. You are allowed to contain things that seem like they should not go together. You do not owe anyone a simpler version of yourself. See you next week.